looking to articulate the feelings that the music made. Then I know someone you should meet now, introducing Mr. Danny Ray. Let's get to kicking and streaming, and I know that you got something to say.
Welcome to Kicking and Streaming. I'm your host, Danny Ray, and this is the first installment of our Beginner's Guide series. For these segments, we're going to try to give you a quick overview and context of a particular band or artist in the music industry. If you ever wanted to do a deep dive on an artist but didn't know where to start, if you keep hearing from your friends that you gotta listen to this band, this is the place to be. We'll go over some of their songs, analyze their albums, and really just provide you with some of the background as to who these people are and why they're noteworthy. For the first episode of our Beginner's Guide series, we're covering one of my favorite artists, Bon Iver. Bon Iver is a Grammy Award-winning man and band that has multiple albums ranked as some of the best of the 21st century. He's collaborated with a range of artists from Bruce Hornsby and St. Vincent to Travis Scott and Kanye West. Bon Iver has been a pioneer in the indie realm, and his ever-evolving sound has influenced artists across genres and captivated arena-filled fans across the globe. The first thing that comes to mind for a lot of people when they hear the name Bon Iver is the song Skinny Love off the first album, and rightfully so. It's an indie classic that tugs at the heartstrings and gets sad Midwestern white dudes all choked up.
Come on, skinny love, just let's sing it. Pour a little salt we will never eat. My.
But let's start from the beginning and work our way up. Bon Iver started out as a one-man band. That man's name is Justin Vernon. Born and raised in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Justin is a doughy, gristled 39-year-old dude with a savant-like musical talent and a thoughtful yet clear and straightforward worldview that centers around connectedness to himself, to each other, and to the world. Justin's tale as to how he became Bon Iver is kind of like a superhero origin story for indie musicians. In 2006, after a stint in Raleigh, North Carolina, he broke up with his post-college band, DeArm and Edison, and then broke up with his girlfriend. Justin headed back home to northwestern Wisconsin, where his dad had a small family cabin for him to stay for the winter. So there he was, alone in the woods, without a band, without a girlfriend, and recovering from mono. Justin took this isolated cabin time to create what would be Bon Iver's first album, For Emma, Forever Ago. Now, this cabin tale has been told and romanticized ever since, and it satisfies this hero's journey itch that our brain likes to scratch. You see it in most movies. Our protagonist suffers from a stumble early on and crosses a threshold that they can never come back from. So they return to the place where it all started, seek solitude, and are somehow able to find themselves and create something remarkable that inspires the masses. And that's pretty much what happens with Justin. He creates this raw, introspective acoustic album where he pours every emotion he is feeling into 9 songs, sung with an almost Jekyll and Hyde switch between beautiful angelic falsetto and a deep rumbled roar. Transferring all these tough emotions into a creative outlet, he considers these few months to be a good winter, which is exactly what Bon Iver means. He discovers this term in the cabin after binging on episodes of early 90s dramedy show Northern Exposure, where the citizens of the small Alaskan town in which it is set celebrate the first snowfall by stating in French, Bon Iver! Bon Iver! The album is released in 2007 and starts to pick up traction, gaining critical acclaim and setting the indie wire on fire. I remember the moment I was introduced to Bon Iver and this album. It was 2009. I had just finished my junior year in college and was visiting my uncle Stuart in Atlanta. We hopped in his sedan and took the back roads from his house to pick up some barbecue. Winding through the roads in the overgrown, humid forest, he asked if I had ever heard of Bon Iver and then gave me the Cabin in the Woods rundown. From the start of the first song, Flume, I knew this ghostly sound was eerily entrancing and something I needed to replay over and over again. Justin follows up his debut album 2 years later with an EP called Blood Bank. It's 4 songs, including what is considered one of his most famous, the self-titled track Blood Bank, in which Justin has upgraded to an electric guitar and added a few more instruments.
Well, I met you at the blood bank. We were looking at the bags, wondering if any other color matched any other names we knew on the tag.
It also includes the song Woods, which is important for a number of reasons. One, it shows us a glimpse of what's to come. The song features Justin using a loop machine where he recites and then reiterates a verse over and over again, sung in different keys and inflections, culminating in a choir-like chorus of multiple Justins belting out auto-tuned a cappella into the void.
I'm up in the woods. I'm down on mine. I'm living to slow down the time.
It's one of the first songs in which we see him challenge the indie form with experimentation and technology, something that will guide him into different ventures and albums to come. One of those ventures is collaboration. When the song Woods is released, it piques the interest of hip-hop artist extraordinaire Kanye West. Kanye, already one of the world's most iconic music artists in the 21st century, was looking to bounce back after his run-in with Taylor Swift at the 2009 MTV Music Awards. So Kanye travels to Hawaii and sets up shop with dozens of the industry's top producers and artists for what he calls Rap Camp, to produce what would become My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, one of the most iconic hip-hop albums of all time. Among the producers invited to Hawaii was Justin Vernon. Kanye samples Justin's song Woods on the track Lost in the World.
I'm up in the woods. I'm down on mine. I'm building a city down the town. I'm lost in the world, but now I'm alive. I'm building a city, and I'm down for the night. Down for the night. Says she's down for the night.
Vernon also provides vocals for other tracks and begins a dynamic friendship with Kanye, spanning years, multiple albums, and live performances together. Kanye claims that Justin is one of his favorite living artists and also one of the baddest white boys on the planet.
I shoot the lights out high till it's bright out. Oh, just another lonely night. Are you willing to sacrifice your life? Bitch, I'm a monster, no good blood sucker.
The year is 2011. With the success and momentum of his previous work, Justin expands his arsenal of artists under the Bon Iver umbrella, adding strings, woodwinds, a saxophone, keyboards, among others, for a fuller, richer sound. The end result is considered one of the best albums of the decade. The self-titled Bon Iver comes out in June 2011 and solidifies Justin's reputation as one of the most inventive and interesting artists in the industry.
Never gonna break, never gonna break. Never gonna break, never gonna break. Not for a boy. And then he carried her the door. Doubled in the toes and exited when it closed in the morning. Did not lose it in the stacks though. I will lay that call back home. You know it won't be chip.
If Bon Iver's first album focused on quiet introspection, this one centers around a textile of feelings, all ever flowing and fleeting through its 10 songs. As Pitchfork puts it in their rare 9.5 rated review, the music here is more like rustic chamber pop, with an experimental edge that makes careful use of arrangement and dynamics. The songs themselves are named after real cities and states like Perth, Minnesota, Calgary, and some that sound real, Michigan and Hingham, Texas. Parsed with Bon Iver's trademark cryptic lyrics, the album gives you an intoxicating blur between reality and surrealism, of places you've been and places you want to go. My favorite song on the album is a song called Wash. Short for Washington, it has a hushed piano and Justin's distorted falsetto doing the heavy lifting.
Is all we know. When thought is not below us, no can go up.
It's one of the ultimate headphones on, walking on a quiet, snowy night kind of songs that'll make your venture feel serene and cinematic.
Claire, all too soft for sound.
The album wins the Best Alternative Music Award, and Bon Iver wins the Best New Artist at the 2012 Grammys.
And the Grammy goes to
Bon Iver!
When I started to make songs, I did it for the inherent reward of making songs, but so I'm a little bit uncomfortable up here. But with that discomfort, I do have a sense of gratitude.
It's after this that Justin decides to take a break from his Bon Iver project. It's also during this time that Justin finds himself not in the best headspace. He acknowledges that at this period, he often felt isolated and anxious wherever he went. He begins to channel and express this feeling in the creation of his next Bon Iver album in 2016 called 22 A Million. "22 is his favorite number and can represent himself, while a million is a vague number that can represent the masses. Paired between himself and the masses, 22 A Million can be seen as the isolation he feels from the rest of the world. This one does not sound like the others. Incorporating elements of electronic music and hip-hop production, and making use of samples, synths, loops, brass instruments, and other effects. The opening track sets the tone. Before making this album, Justin did a solo trip to Greece, and for the duration, he was completely in his head and feeling isolated on his own. So, to get through his vacation, Justin kept muttering a mantra to himself. It might be over soon.
It might be over soon.
Sure, this passing feeling of uncomfortableness might be over soon. This trip might be over soon. But also, existence itself might pass in a fleeting moment, and worrying about trivial unfamiliarity while being on vacation might be missing the point. These types of existential paradoxes hover over this heavy, distorted album that is likened to Radiohead's famous Kid A album in terms of anxious tone and electronic experimentation. Justin views this album as a personal record about how to move forward through disorienting times. 22 A Million came out in the fall of 2016. If there ever was a disorienting time in the world, one might put a post-it note on this chapter. Most apparent on this album is the change in Justin's voice. Masked and distorted throughout, Vernon's fractured self is burrowed under synthesizers and software plugins, retreating behind a computer while he questions mortality and the afterlife. If his self-titled album focused on places and states, both real and imagined, this album centers around symbols and the meaning we assign to them. Each of the 10 tracks includes numeric names: 33 God, 715 Creeks, 21 Moonwater, while the album artwork is riddled with these cryptic runes that look like the journal doodles of an ancient Egyptian teenager. While these binary and hieroglyphic symbols might appear cold on the surface, especially mixed in with all the technical and electronic elements of the album, it is Justin's soul that pierces through each and every song. It gives meaning to these artificial designs, showing that the labels themselves don't matter. It's the intention and humanity behind it that is the real driver. A perfect example of this is on the third song on the album, 715 Creeks. This track is an extension of his earlier auto-tuned a cappella called Woods. This time around, there's no loop of verses to soothe you into a rhythm of familiarity. You just dive right into this raw soliloquy, structured like a secular hymn, and filtered through a computer program.
Down along the creek, I remember something. Heard the heron hurried away. When first I breached that last Sunday. Low moon down the yellow road, I remember something.
Even if you can't understand what he is saying or what the actual lyrics mean, you immediately grasp the feeling of what he is expressing. He is longing, he is hurt, he is questioning.
Finding both your hands, a second sun came past the glass. And oh, I know it felt right, I had you in my grasp. Oh, then how we gonna cry? 'Cause it once might not mean something.
The album gets a lot of praise from music critics and a few Grammy nominations to boot. But more importantly, it pushes further the idea of infusing sounds in music genres, and it influences many independent artists to do the same. Just 3 years later, Bon Iver rounded out his discography with a fourth album. According to Justin, he always felt like these albums were seasons to him. His first album, For Emma, Forever Ago, obviously being winter. His second, Bon Iver, being spring. 22 A Million being summer. And concludes his next will be the fall. In 2019, Bon Iver releases I. Immediately from the album, you can tell that Justin has faced his mental demons head-on and is in a healthier headspace. The album itself is his most clear and actualized. It sounds optimistic and outward. The album title, I, is derived from a Rastafarian concept, meaning I the self and I the collective, that we're responsible for one another and we're all made up of one large organism. This theme is on display in its lyrics and also how it was made. Justin spent 6 weeks in an El Paso studio called Sonic Ranch, collaborating with his trusted crew. He said for the first time, he felt the weight off his shoulders making an album. That it was truly a team-driven record made by people he trusted and loved. And it sounds like it. It's open and airy, and it exudes brighter textures than the previous operating system orchestra that was 22 A Million. Rather than reinvent the wheel for the fourth time, this one sounds like a collection of his previous albums combined. You can sense that in the single Hey Ma, taking the lighter folk elements of Blood Bank or the self-titled album, and mixing in various 22 A Million style technical effects.
Tell the story or it goes. Tell the story or it goes. Full time you talk your money up while it's living in a coal mine. Full time to call your ma. Hey ma, hey ma.
This album receives more critical praise and more Grammy noms, and sets Bon Iver out on their first arena tour throughout the world. So there you have it. An overview of the 10 plus years and 4 plus albums created by Bon Iver. Thanks for taking the journey along with me. Not every podcast is going to go this deep into an artist. It's just one of my favorites. I guess what really strikes me about Bon Iver is the willingness to experiment and to reinvent yourself, to try things out, take traditional concepts and push them even further to make your own sound. The noises may change, but the thoughtfulness and expressiveness stay the same. Wherever Justin goes and whatever he experiences, he is able to find beauty and can meaningfully reflect the emotional journey it is to be human. Because who knows? It might be over soon.
Well, I thought that this was half a love. Well, I thought that this was half